with McGraw-Millhaven, where the nation comes to talk.
There's really only one radio station in America that has both John Goodman and our next guest on the same show. Bill Cleveland from BillOnTheRoad.com. Welcome back, Bill Cleveland.
And I'm guessing John Goodman didn't drink a bunch of Dr. Pepper right before he was about to go on the air and potentially burp through the segment. So you got that going for me, I guess.
Was it Diet Dr. Pepper or was it fully leaded Dr. Pepper?
You know what I like, McGraw? They have this new zero sugar Dr. Pepper. Have you tried that?
Dr. Pepper Zero?
Yeah, it's called Dr. Pepper. Yeah, zero sugar. It's actually, I think it's actually better than the original stuff, and it's pretty good. So, but yeah, unfortunately, I just chugged a little of that. So there may be a belch or two during the broadcast. I apologize.
This segment brought to you by Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. I guess. There you go.
Send me a big
good
check.
stuff. All right.
How are you?
All right. Good. I'm great. Thank you for checking in as always. Where are you, Bill Cleveland?
Well, I've been doing a little more Route 66 exploring in the great state of Illinois. So checking in from Joliet, Illinois. Ever been to Joliet?
I have not, but is the home of Rudy Rudiger, the famed football player who they made the movie of.
Look at you with the sports trivia.
That's all I know.
I don't know much about
that's all
sports,
That's all I know about Joliet. Joliet. It's a suburb of Chicago, right?
I guess you could call it a suburb. It's a little farther away, but it's
okay.
I'll tell you what they're really known for. Well, there's a handful of things they're known for, but the one, probably the biggest attraction that they have in town is actually a prison. So people always think it's weird that I will go and tour these historic prisons, but they're pretty interesting. And it's the old Joliet prison, and it's probably the biggest tourist attraction that they have in the area. It's actually, in a weird way, it's a kind of a beautiful building. Like it's from 1858, right? So it kind of looks like a castle as you're approaching it. You can tour it, you can go through it. It was built, listen to this, by the first 53 inmates. Can you imagine? You're getting ready, they're throwing you in prison, and then they say, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to build the prison. Isn't that wild? At its peak, they had like 2,000 prisoners in there. But you know what made it famous, right? Do you know what made this
no idea.
famous?
No idea.
It was a filming location for the Blues Brothers. They filmed inside of the prison there in Joliet. Have you seen the Blues Brothers?
I have not seen the Blues Brothers. I mean, I've seen parts of it, but I guess I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they filmed a part of it there. And there's also a show I think called Prison Break that was filmed there. I'm not really familiar with that particular show, but that was filmed there. And so now I'll ask you: have you ever toured an old prison before?
I mean, not really. Maybe I was in an old town, western town, and it had like a one cell room, but like the Andy Griffith stage, but not a prison. No.
Okay. So I will tell you have to do this. And if it's not in Joliet, Jefferson City, Missouri has got the old, the huge one there, the Missouri Penitentiary. Alcatraz, of course, the big one. You can find these around the country where they're abandoned or they are now just completely open to the public. No prisoners, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, left behind. And so, but it is wild to walk through there, seeing like the peeling paint coming off of the cell blocks and the old metal bunk beds, and they will give you, McGraw, a list of rules as you walk in, and it's stuff just like don't shut the prison, don't shut the gates to the cells, the cell doors. Don't shut those because they don't have the lock and keys anymore. So and they go through this list of like 10 or 12 rules, and the whole time you're thinking, okay, they're only telling me these things because some idiot has done these things that they're telling me, not to do. And I did ask, I'm like, how often do people get locked in there? And they're like, it has happened before where people shut the gate they're trying to make a fun little photo, and then, oh, ain't so fun now. You're trapped in the in the
That sounds
cell.
that sounds like an episode of I Love Lucy or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but the old Joliet prison, it is really interesting, and it's it is very historical, and they talk about what life was like there. They just redid the baseball fields, which are crazy. They had a big baseball game there inside of the prison, like a couple of I guess they were like AAA teams or some minor league teams played there inside of the prison. So I don't know, it's kind of a cool thing to check out if you're in Joliet.
It's not active, right? It's closed.
Yeah, I was making a little joke, but yeah,
Okay.
it is not active and hasn't since I want to say 2000, maybe even a little earlier than that, in the 90s or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not active anymore.
Was it?
They've got a
Was
great.
it?
Go ahead.
Was it? Were there a lot of tourists there, or did you go by yourself and it was a lonely, desolate place?
No, actually, there were. Now, I was there. Let's see, when yesterday. So I was, a weekday during the day, so there weren't a ton of people, but they do get a lot of visitors. There were probably 20 people milling around.
Hmm.
It's a huge place. Like it's a big property. And so yeah, no, it's a pretty popular tourist attraction, especially if you're doing Route 66. So Route 66 and the Lincoln Highway, which I believe was the first like coast to coast highway across the country. They intersect in Joliet, so they have that kind of claim to fame going for them. So you get a lot of people who are traveling both of those and wind up there. So other things to see, you've got the area history museum, which is pretty neat. It was a former church building, I believe, but they had. Speaking of Blues Brothers, they have the original Blues Brothers suits. Worn by Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. Unfortunately, they weren't there when I walked through. I think they were on loan to another museum, but you can normally see those. Great merchandise, by the way, McGraw. I go to a lot of these museums, and the merch is kind of lacking. These people, I don't know if they're listening, but whoever is in charge of doing the merchandise in Joliet for Route 66, they had a lot of really cool stuff, including, by the way, they had a T-shirt in the gift shop and it said, "I was stopped by a bridge." And I thought, what the heck does this mean? I was stopped by a bridge. I didn't really understand it. Until a couple hours later, I get stopped by a bridge. And turns out this is a pretty regular thing if you live in Joliet or you're in this area. They have these, I guess they're not called drawbridges. I don't know what the heck they call them, but I guess they raise them up for, river traffic or whatever. And it apparently is a regular thing to the poor people who are in Joliet who have to deal with this on a fairly regular basis. And at least they have the good sense of humor to print it on a T-shirt. And I thought I'd be cute and like navigate around. And then after 15 minutes of screwing with my GPS and trying to find an alternate route, I wind up exactly back where I started in line to get it back across the bridge. So anyway, I thought that was kind of fun. They also have a rock and roll museum there in downtown Joliet. It's the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum. Chuck Berry, who recorded some of his hit songs there at Chess Records in Chicago, of course not from Illinois, but had some ties to Illinois. They had a really cool display of some of his guitars. They even had, I don't know how to describe it. He had this hat that he would wear on stage. It looked like a not a pirate hat, like a sailor's hat. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Like a captain's hat, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, captain's hat. They had it there on display. Yeah, that was kind of cool. Earth, Wind, and Fire. They're represented on a mural outside of the building. It was really, really cool. It was kind of a hidden gem, I guess you would say. They had like an old radio studio in there. It looked like it was from the 1950s, kind of preserved. So definitely check that one out. The other thing that I'll mention before I jump outside of the Joliet area, they have the original Dairy Queen is in Joliet. Now, it's not a restaurant anymore, but they've just preserved this original space. I'll talk about more of this maybe down the road a little bit, because I filmed a segment there and interviewed a really nice guy who was with their local history museum. But it was really neat, like a very small space. But this is where the guys who started Dairy Queen, they had invented, and I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'm going to botch this just a bit, but they essentially invented this soft serve type of ice cream that they sell, and they realized they had a hit with it because the first day that they sold it, they had people, by the hundreds lined up down the block to get some of this, this new soft serve type of ice cream. So they opened up this little shop, and it was right there in downtown Joliet, and it's cool. Like they saved the building, but they put back up like the old looking signs on the front and everything.
Yeah.
So it's really nostalgic. It's pretty neat, and hopefully they'll turn that into a museum at some point. But
the Dairy Queen. Yes, Dairy Queen. You know who Dairy Queen's owned by? You know who owns Dairy Queen?
I don't know.
Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett.
The real estate people.
Well,
yeah, I know. Yeah. I always see those signs in the front yards. Yeah. Really, that's interesting. Yeah, it's a really great story, and they right out of the gate, like, man, they were one of the early ones with franchising, like thousands of locations all across the country. And so yeah, it was cool to see that original story.
Yeah.
All right, two other things I have to mention about this area. So I love the quirky attractions, as you know, and anybody who has been following me on my Bill and Road Facebook page has seen this. If you haven't, you'll want to check it out. I found the Gemini Giant. Have you ever heard of this guy?
Never heard of the Gemini Giant.
Oh, McGraw. It's one of the muffler men. You know what I'm talking about when I say muffler men? Those gigantic statues they used to have everywhere.
Vaguely. Fill me in.
Okay. So the Gemini, this particular one was a muffler man. They used to have these all over the country, and they're these big, like this guy. This one was 30 feet tall. Okay, and initially it was in Wilmington, Illinois, which is just outside of Joliet. This one was built in 1960, and he was named after the NASA space program, Gemini. And he was in front of this old school drive-in, like, diner place, the Lunar Drive-In, I think it was called. No longer exists. But they refurbished the thing and they put him in his own little park. And it is a mainstay of Route 66 nostalgia. If you drive Route 66, you have to stop at all of the, the crazy roadside attractions, and this is one of them. And I had missed it on previous Route 66 stops. So the Gemini, he's gigantic, McGraw. 30
How
feet
big
tall.
is he? How tall?
30 feet tall. He's huge. Yeah, I'll send you a picture, which isn't good for everybody else listening, but yeah, it's So you got to go to see the Gemini Giant. And then the other thing you'll want to check out, this is kind of in the neighborhood, is Pontiac, Illinois, another great town on Route 66. They really do up Route 66 great. They've got 26 outdoor murals around town, many of them dedicated to Route 66, including this huge Route 66 shield. They call that the number sign there, the shield. Huge mural on the side of a building you can get a picture of. They got the Route 66 Hall of Fame Museum is there, and a lot of really cool things to see. So it's really fun if you're doing Route 66. It's the 100th anniversary. Joliet, Illinois, can't recommend it enough. They're very nice people there, and I've had a blast.
So I'm looking at the map of Joliet. I don't see Route 66 on the map. Am I missing something, or is it something else now?
Well, I don't have my Google map in front of me, but Route 66 and the Lincoln Highway literally intersect in the middle of like their downtown. They got a sign right in downtown that points out that the two roads are now. Which you may be looking.
Hold on a second. I zoomed in here, and Route 6 is. They're also calling that Route 66. So this is why I get confused.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And Route 66 also changed a little bit over time too. So if you travel, Route 66 and you're exploring all these places, you will notice that it'll say like Route 66 from 1926 to 1934 was this road, and
Got it.
So they did move it around a little bit. So. But,
okay, all right. I don't feel so bad. All right, good.
No, you shouldn't. You should. Of all things you should feel bad about, this ain't the one. This is not the. This isn't the one.
So are you? Did you have any book signings in Joliet, or you just had a hankering for Route 66 Dairy Queen soft serve a vanilla cone, and you drove up there?
Hey, let me tell you real quick what happened. This was very interesting. I did have one in the town of DeKalb, Illinois. I think I'm saying that correctly. It's about 45 minutes from Joliet. And this has never happened to me before. I had someone in the audience who was visually impaired, right? They couldn't see anything. And you want to talk about it was pressure because I knew this person was in the audience, and I know they can't see anything on the screen that I'm showing, and so I did my absolute best as I'm giving the stories to be as visual as possible in my stories, and was kind of sweating bullets until the end. And this lovely lady, she approached me afterwards, and she said, "I just want to thank you." She goes, "Your descriptions were wonderful, and you really made this a very enjoyable experience." And I thought, "Oh, thank God," because I mean, you don't think about that kind of thing. Somebody showing up and they can't. You got, most of it is very visual. What I do,
Sure, yeah.
In addition to the great stories, but yeah, you're showing slides and videos and everything. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience.
That's your training from all your years in radio, learning how to paint a picture with your words.
Painting a picture, yes, sir. You got it.
Be painting the picture. All right, BillOnTheRoad.com, BillOnTheRoad.com. We got a text message from somebody. It says, Bill got his AAAP card when he was 11. No,
well,
no greater compliment.
I've always been accused of having an old soul, being an old soul.
God love you.
So, yeah,
good stuff.
Is true. Mm-hmm.
All right. BillOnTheRoad.com. We'll have a good week traveling on the road. Be safe, and we'll check in somewhere, wherever you are in this great country next Thursday. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. See you.